When you're getting triggered by someone, they're there to teach you something. What is it about that person that's bothering me? What is it about me that's getting triggered? Something inside of me is getting touched. You're touching a nerve. It's not her, it's me. And that's the hard work.
Today's guest is Anna Marcolin, a psychotherapist and life coach with 24 years of experience. Anna is also a wife, mom, business owner, and athlete. And in today's episode, Anna is getting real about the mental health challenges we all face as she shares her best insights to help you feel happier, healthier, and so much more fulfilled in life.
This is something that is, for many people, wrought with shame. So people don't talk about it. You have to know somebody before they are going to talk about their insecurities, because people are concerned about how they look to others. There's no judgment in any of this. And when we learn to speak what is inside of us, what you will find is that others feel the same way as you.
All right, Anna, I am so happy to have you here on the Fit Mother Project podcast. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be here and to have this conversation with you.
Me too. Today is going to be a conversation centered around mental health. And I feel like that's kind of been almost like this cultural buzzword, you know, dating back several years as we went through the COVID and all the stuff associated with that. And now people are kind of more woken up to the fact that, man, like sometimes I don't feel okay. I feel anxiety. I feel depression. I want to feel confident and happy. And you have literally dedicated your professional career to doing this for yourself and obviously helping people as a psychotherapist do this for close to 25 years.
Right.
You have so much experience, so many conversations, and you've seen the patterns. And my goal from this is to go through a lot of topics that I'm personally interested in mental health, you know, and I guess we start off by maybe defining what does mental health even mean to you? And of course, any of your story that you can weave into on why you started this work would be great to kick us off.
You know, mental health to me doesn't mean living a life that's perfect. It means living a life that is in alignment with your values. And for each person, that's going to be different. Mental health also means finding contentment and peace in your life. So mental health is not being happy every day. We're not happy every day. That's not realistic. But it's really, you know, finding, you know, your joy and what fills you up. And that is something that I think most of us strive for throughout our lives. It's something that can come and something that can go because of the curveballs that life throws at us. And at the same time, it's important to try to always get back, reset, and to take care of our mental health. Just like I've talked to couples, if you don't work in your marriage, the marriage will suffer. We have to work at relationships. We have to work at our partnerships, in our marriages. We have to work in our mental health.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you find it is effectively living in accordance with that which lights us up, this kind of this through line of this passion. And I feel like that's something that, I know some stages in life we might have clarity on, and other stages we might lose some clarity on. At first, it's maybe like being a parent and having kids, and then they transition out and you got to figure out new things. At first, it was your marriage or relationship, and then it changes. Like, how do you counsel people through these transition periods in life, or for someone who's here and like they honestly say, like, there's some things I like, but I don't know what actually lights me up?
You have to spend time really doing some soul searching about what is meaningful to you. I see a lot of women who are in midlife, who are in their 40s and really closer to their 50s and maybe early 60s, who are really struggling with, you know, I don't know what lights me up anymore, because for so many years it was, you know, getting ahead in my career and my work family and going out with my work friends and doing, still hanging out with my friends from college. And then it was partnering up and maybe getting married and settling down for some. And then for others, it was then having children. So pregnancy and babies and toddlers. And that's a whole thing that you get totally wrapped up in. And in each of those stages, we are finding who we are in the context of that environment that we're living in. And where I see it really show up is women and men midlife later. Kids are going to college or they're in high school and you are so irrelevant to them. And it's like, oh my gosh, my body is changing. Work has changed. It's not all the same people that are there, or I'm a stay-at-home mom now. And I don't know what the point is of what I'm doing. I mean, the kids don't need me. And do I go back to work? What is this all about? Many of us are taking care of our aging parents. So the sandwich generation where maybe we've got, a younger one at home, we've got kids who are in high school or college, and we've got aging parents. And where am I in all of this? And I think in each of those phases, we got to find what is important to us as individuals and to not have guilt around it, but to really do soul searching. And if you need help, see a therapist, get a coach to help you go through and remind yourself of what it is that lights you up. And I don't think we always have to have passion, because I think that that's an ideal. And we talk about passion a lot. Some people have passion. You don't have to have passion, but you have to have something that you can get excited about, if not daily, then weekly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really good. And, it's interesting. You see these like stories of some journalist goes to some undeveloped country and there's people who are like digging
Yes.
trenches in the mud for like
Right.
50, 60 years. And then they come home and they have good family life. And they're like, these are the happiest people I've ever met.
Right.
And so that's interesting when we observe these things, that it's not always that we have to have some grand clarity or concept of the purpose or the thing. And in fact, what you shared is many times when we feel lost, it's because we're attached to stages of life
Right.
or conditions in life that are inherently changeable, and meaning they disappear at some point or they shift form. So it's like there's a baseline level of being happy at the background of this. And I think physical health seems like it might be like a good third of the equation. Like, what
Right.
do you think?
I totally agree. I think that, when we are not feeding and nourishing our bodies with the nutrition that we need, we know there is a connection to one's mental health. I mean, I've been preaching this to my clients for years, that the mind, body, the soul, the spirit, if you will, they're interconnected, and you cannot separate them. As much as you may try and you may want to, you cannot separate them. What you put into your body absolutely affects your mental health. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm all about taking care of your body, and you will see, if you're working on your sleep, if you're working on moving your body, I'll say even go further than that. You have a fitness routine. Walking
Yeah.
is wonderful. I'd encourage you to do more than walking. Get into a fitness routine, and you're taking care of the food that you're putting into your body. Now, there's no perfection here, but if
Yeah.
you're working on all of those three important things, then you're going to see an improvement in your mental health. I mean, there's research and studies to back this up. We know it to be true. So, you can't, why, when I used to work in the hospital, I used to work in the emergency room many years ago, and we'd have these patients who were coming in and they were having heart attacks. I'm having a heart attack. I'm having a heart attack. Do you know many? And I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir with you. Do you know how many of these people were not having heart attacks, but they were having panic attacks?
Yeah. I mean, probably over half, if not
Right.
more.
Right. There's something that was going on psychologically in their mental state that they were not taking care of. So they were having these low key to high key panic attacks,
Yeah.
and some of them were with phobias, and they just thought they were dying. That's how
Yeah.
painful it shows up in the body for certain
Yeah.
individuals when they don't take care of their mental health.
Mm-hmm. It's really important to remember like how profound the experiences in the body can be through these mental states. And it also reminds me too, is I think what we want beyond what the specific role or task or job is we want to have the experience that we're like learning and growing, like some area of our life we're expanding on. We want
Right.
to feel like we're connecting to others, to our work, like there's some
Yes.
kind of exchange of energy and it feels mutually beneficial. And we want to feel like we're contributing in some way, like what the things that we're spending our time on are having an impact. Like we plant a tree, we raise a child, we
Right.
help the business, and it does a little bit better. And I think when you understand that, there's many contexts that can fill us up. It reminds me of my brother. He thought growing up he was going to be a musician, and he got so tapped into this identity, and it kind of drove him crazy for like a decade trying to make that happen. And then he actually found out that he loves carpentry, and he
Wow.
never anything on his radar, but it hits the same notes of contribution, of service, of learning and growing. So I think it's important to remember these baseline factors. And I don't know if that resonates with you.
I mean, it's so important. If you have a passion, go for it. And if you have more than one passion, if that's something that you can do as a career, it's not the majority, but absolutely go after that. But find something that lights you up. You're absolutely right. So yes, it's sleep, it's nutrition, it's moving your body, fitness. And then what is it that lights you up? What is it that you look forward to,
Mm.
maybe weekly or monthly? Do you have vacations planned? I mean, I cannot tell you how many times in a month I'm talking to my clients about, all right, what's on your agenda? What do you got planned next? Well, nothing. Come on. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we gotta, let's get you planning something. Let's get a weekend away.
Yeah.
Maybe you're planning a trip, in 6 months. Maybe, you want to go to Canada for a week. Maybe
Yeah.
you want to go to Europe. Let's plan something, because when we have something to look forward to that we can get excited about, that really does help us, because it makes us realize we're alive.
Life
We're
energy.
alive.
Yes.
Yes, we're alive. It's here, and I'm so excited about what I'm going to see and who I'm going to meet and who I'm going to talk to. So I think planning for the future is really important. And you made
Mm-hmm.
a really good point about, volunteering, getting out and connecting. And COVID did a number on all of us globally. So I am Italian, and I have family that's in northern Italy, and my cousin was here in the fall this past September. We were talking about COVID. I was over there since then, but we got into this interesting conversation. Oh, because we were talking about our dogs, and he has dogs, and he was saying, "Do you know that you could not leave?" So they live in apartments. Many people in Europe live in apartments. They don't have single family homes. They don't have the land. That's a much older continent. They don't have the land that we have here in North America. And he was telling me how he was living in his apartment with his two dogs, and the only reason why he could go outside, I think it was he had a mask on, but you could only go outside if you had dogs. If you didn't have
Wow.
animals, you weren't allowed to go outside. And if you did, people were calling, like they had, actually the police were arresting people, giving people tickets. So that's the only way that he's like, thank God I had the dogs, because I could go
Mm.
outside. But he was talking about what it did to his town, very small town, Northern Italy, what it did to people, the depression rates, and what they saw. People would sneak. So they have a bar, and nobody over there is listening to this podcast, I wouldn't think. But they have a bar, and a bar in Italy is not like a bar here. A bar is a place where you go in the morning, you get your coffee, you get your
Mm-hmm.
cigarettes, you have your espresso, it's where you go to get candy, food, whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
a little sandwiches. It's where the community comes together and connects. It's where
Yeah.
everybody says hello in the morning. Everybody, everybody does the local gossip. That was shut down. He said they opened it up, and people snuck in, because people needed to connect with each other.
Mm-hmm.
People were talking about how low they felt, how sad they felt. It was their lifeblood. They needed to connect with each other. And we saw that here in the United States with not being able to see each other. There's so much to getting out there. Today we can all do it. Go and join a pickleball group. Go
Yeah.
and join, volunteer, help make sandwiches at a food pantry.
Yeah.
Do something. But that sense of altruism and giving back, what you will give yourself way outnumbers what you're doing for others. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's really, really important for mental health. Even though you may not feel like it, it's okay. Look, Google in your area, volunteering, and put in your town and see what shows up on the Google page. You will see organizations and nonprofits that are looking for volunteers. It's pretty easy to do. And go. I know you could feel nervous because you don't know anybody. Go, drive, park in that parking lot, get out and walk in and go and say, I'm here. And you will be amazed at what it will do for you.
I absolutely love that. Such great
Yeah.
advice. I want to steer us in a slightly different direction with this simple question. Anna, how do we heal from things that happened in the past that we're still holding on to?
You have to forgive yourself. I think that so often people are holding on to relationships, patterns of behaving, things that have happened, and they have not really forgiven themselves. They need to maybe forgive others, but it's this self forgiveness and letting go, releasing that this happened, releasing that I was this way, I behaved like that, I felt this way, I thought this way. That is like an albatross around our neck. When we don't let go of the past, it will seriously weigh you down, and it absolutely will, I'm not saying can, will affect your future and how you show up with people that you haven't met yet. There's so many people out there you haven't met yet who are excited and looking forward to meeting you. Think about how you're showing up. If you're carrying around some sort of resentment about the past or guilt about the past, people are going to see that because there's an energy within you that you're putting out to others.
Hmm.
So you don't deserve, it doesn't matter what you did, you do not deserve to hold on to negative energy from the past. And I'm not even I'm not a huge believer in energy, but in this way, I am. I really
Hmm.
think that all that all of our anger and our sadness and our grief is another thing because we have to grieve, and nobody grief ends when it does, and for some people it never ends, and that's okay. But more of like actions from the past, and in the work I do with clients by and large is how they feel about themselves,
Hmm.
and they don't really talk about it. They just keep it to themselves. It's on the down low inside themselves. It's not until we get into these conversations and my clients get to know me and I get to know them. It's usually months into our relationship together that they will tell me the inner workings of their mind. And there you see, that is not healed. And that's what needs to be worked on. And that's where you see people not valuing themselves, not caring about what they're eating. I don't feel like working out today, letting go of their dreams, letting go of goals. When I was in high school, I really, like to your point about, you just share with your brother, but when I was in high school, I was really good at, I don't know, playing an instrument, or I was really good at, in charge of the finance club in high school or in my fraternity. And I just, I don't know, I hit this moment of just depression and anxiety and started to think that I couldn't do it and that I wasn't worth it. And I've also did some things in my past that I don't think make me worthy, that I'm too embarrassed to talk about. And that's why here you are today, so down in the dumps, passing up opportunities because of your beliefs about yourself from 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Hmm. For sure. It's amazing. If that same person, if you could inject them with some kind of amnesia drug that wiped out their
Totally.
memories and they just woke up the next day, they'd have the same body and the same circumstances and a completely new outlook, and they
Totally.
could go create. And that's wild to me. It's like that we constrain ourselves. And I mean, speaking takes one to know one. Like, I've been there in many different periods of my life. It's just
Right.
amazing how powerful the cages that we create in our mind from these emotional experiences and limiting beliefs that creep in over time.
I like that you said, I never thought of it like that before with cages, but you're absolutely right. There are these mental cages that we stay stuck in. And what is interesting to me about this is that this is something that is for many people wrought with shame. So people
Mhm.
don't talk about it. I mean, you have to know somebody before they are going to talk about their insecurities because people are concerned about how they look to others. And there's no shame, there's no judgment in any of this. And when we learn to speak what is inside of us, what you will find is that others feel the same way as you. And
Mhm.
when you speak it, it loses its energy because shame lives in darkness. Shame
Yeah.
can't live in the light. So when you start to speak it, it's like, oh, it's not that bad. It fizzles out. The energy
Yeah.
loses its energy.
Yeah. It's so true. And I think the most powerful people that I know are ones that have this like major vulnerability where they just kind of like wear their humanity out in a connectable way. And those people typically are the most healed as well because they brought all
Right.
these things into the light. And I think this is how we heal each other. Like, just hear me out on the energy thing, is even just when you see someone operating in that way in the world, it's so inspiring and you feel drawn to them that
Right.
insofar as
It's
they
true.
create a model, like, you're able to pattern that. And I think this is how we all help each other,
I
guiding
agree.
each
No,
other
I agree
home
with
in
that.
healing, right?
Absolutely. You pick up on energies. I think we all do. And there's the intuition. We intuit the energies that people show up with, and people who've done the work. I love that you said that. People who've done the work. And let me tell you, those people who show up vulnerable and humble and have a heart for others, many of them have done hard work, whether it be in meditation,
Yeah.
prayer, psychotherapy. They've done some serious, I call it soul work. That's how
Hmm.
you're seeing them today. They're an evolved human. Many of them were not that way maybe 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, but they've done that soul work to get themselves to the plane that they're on now. And then when we meet them, there's this energy that we are attracted to. We want to be
Yeah.
around them. We want to talk to them. We're curious about them, right?
Yeah. And what's so cool about that is that's something that doesn't expire. It's not like that you hit 60 and that's less valuable, or hit 70. In fact, it's
Right.
more valuable. Like, I think we're attracted to we've lost the in our culture, the elder sage kind of like
Yes.
archetype, where it's almost like we discard people after a certain point because many of them like lose their physical capacity. The mind is not as sharp
Right.
versus this experience. I can imagine like this 95-year-old grandma who's still out there, great grandma, I should say, and she's still out there volunteering. She has memories and she's sharing things. And like, that's someone everyone would like honestly look up to. And I don't know if
Yes.
like, I'm not saying anyone needs to strive for that, but I think this concept is somewhat cultural. And I
Hmm.
could see a different culture where we had expressed beautiful older people, and I think it would change everything.
And if you find those people in your life, if you have those people in your life, try not to take them for granted. If you think about this for a minute, and you bring up a really good point, because they have so much to offer. If we can learn to sit at their feet and listen to them, it's a really good point. They're like the wise sages that
Mm-hmm.
we tend to not pay attention to a whole lot in this day and age, because we're go 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 all the
Yeah.
time, and we're all distracted with our phones and social media. They're the ones who can teach us a lot about life, and that is timeless. That has nothing to do with 2024
Yeah.
or 1924. They have a lot to offer. I know there's World War II, right? They ended in 1945. Many of them have passed now, but over the past
Mm-hmm.
20 years, I've met many of them, because I worked in the hospital and I was in oncology part time when I was also in my practice. And I have met many of them, and I would sit and listen to them, and I kick myself because I go sit in their room when they were having their infusion for their chemo treatment. And I remember my husband saying to me, "You should be recording this. You should be recording this. This guy, like, was a prisoner of war in Italy. This guy jumped out of a plane. This guy, like, why are you not recording these conversations?" And I didn't, and I regret it, because I don't know, I was busy and I was seeing patients, and they had so much to impart about mission and purpose and stick to itiveness and the importance of friendship and family and their love of our country.
Mm-hmm.
I was in awe of them. So that's
Yeah.
a really good point about the
I love
elder.
that. And I
Yeah.
think that's what we also have the opportunity to do as grandmothers and grandfathers at some stage in our lives if we've had kids, like, and they have kids. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I want to ask a couple other like very direct questions because there's
Yeah.
some things I want to hear about your take on it. One, like what happens when we encounter like we're doing the healing, we're doing the work, and then we encounter people in the world, or patterns or things that like we used to associate with that we might now label as negative. There's a negative person in our life or a negative circumstance that we no longer feel aligned with. How to be around that without it affecting us or dragging us down. And then the deeper layer of this is how to be around that without casting like a new layer of judgment or creating any new entanglement with that. Like, how do we be around that like joyfully when something is just clearly not aligned or there's some negativity in our life or in our environment?
I think being realistic. So you make a good point there too about negative people. And I hear today a lot, we say, "Oh, they're so toxic. They're so toxic." I don't know that everybody in our life is toxic. I think that there are people who they run negative, and that's, where they come from. That's their life story. And, that's where they're at. And if you find that being around somebody, maybe a coworker, a family member, this comes up often with family members, with my clientele, is a negative person and it rubs off on you, either in comments that they're making to you, or that energy is just something that you don't, it's not good for you. You have to have boundaries around your mental health. So the answer to that simply is protect yourself, set parameters around how much you will expose yourself to that person. If you can, even if you're at a family gathering, if you're something with work, if you can, remove yourself, leave the room. And then if you have to come back, leave the room for 5 minutes. You
Mm-hmm.
can limit how often you're around somebody, maybe in the family. Maybe you come a little bit later. You help, with what's going on at the event, maybe help clean up, and then you get out of there. I mean, it's really important. You must protect your mental health. And there are times when we can't help it. We are around negative people.
Yeah.
So I think it's finding that balance, because they're not where you're at. That's
Mm-hmm.
okay. Don't judge them. try to throw them grace and throw them love in your mind. If you can, if you can't, that's fine too. But
Hmm.
have boundaries around those certain individuals, because if you find that, wow, I go to another place, like my old self comes out, they make me angry. I get all kind of pissed off at them, and I find myself like playing their game. They want to one up me. I can't stand that. And then not my better self doesn't come out. Then I try to one up them. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like
totally.
we can start to play that and we get egotistical. And it's like, wait,
Yes.
I thought I'd worked on this. I thought I wasn't doing this anymore. And here I
Yeah.
am in my humanity and I'm doing it again. That's
Hmm.
okay. Just notice it. The most important thing is to start to notice your behavior. Notice how you feel on the inside. Notice what you feel. Where do you feel it? Do you feel it in your shoulders? Do you feel it in your stomach? Do you
Hmm.
feel it in your neck? What are you thinking? Are you thinking? Are you like, you thinking, oh, this person's bugging the crap out of me right now? And how are you behaving? Are you behaving? Do you notice that you're kind of squaring off with them in the kitchen? Do you notice that you're not stepping away? Just notice your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviors. And that's start. And if you can change it for next time, but change it in small increments. That's why I tell people at Thanksgiving all the time, I tell my clients, all right, so Uncle so-and-so's coming. He's not going to shut up about politics. Aunt so-and-so's coming. She drinks too much. This happens every year. We know these patterns. So what are you going to do? When it gets crazy, you're going to, don't make a big scene. Just gently, quietly get up, go play with the little cousins. Go start washing the dishes. Go to the bathroom and splash cold water on your face if you don't have a ton of makeup on and
Yeah.
if you're a woman. Go outside. Those are the little things that we can do when we're around these air quote negative people.
Yeah, that's great. It's so practical. I think what I love about your answers and everything you shared so far is they're deep, but they're like so chiefly practical. And I love it. I think it's a great answer. I
Yeah.
also think what came up for me as you were sharing that is these people that still have the ability to trigger us.
Right.
Like one, we need to create that healthy boundary because you don't want to just be taking poison on all the time. There's no system that's strong enough to handle poison constantly. But these are also could be viewed as our best growth partners because they're still the people that have the ability to
Yes.
trigger us. And it's like, so
Yes.
one, I love what you said is like, that's where they're at. That's the heart of compassion. Like you can
Right.
really, Aunt Susan is the way she is because she had a really tough relationship with her mom and she's on her second
Right.
divorce and like she
Right.
drinks too much because she's trying to cope. Like you can see the constellation of why they are the way they are, still create the boundary, but also have compassion and then thank them even the radical thankfulness because like they can still reveal to you the stuff to work
They
on to
reveal to you yourself. I mean,
yeah.
we don't realize that when someone triggers, air quote, triggers us and we're having feelings, okay, so your shadow self is showing up. So you're absolutely right. If you're open to this, when you're getting triggered by someone, they're there to teach you something. It's actually not even the person of them. It's something, and I don't know if your spirit and your listeners are spiritual.
Yeah.
You can think of this in whichever way you want, but this is the spirit showing up to show you something.
Hmm.
What is it about that person that's bothering me? Like you said, it's not Aunt Susie. She's drinking too much. We know why. Second divorce, but I'm getting triggered by her. What is it about me that's getting triggered? Something inside of me is getting touched. You're touching a
Hmm.
nerve. I'm touching a nerve.
Yes.
What is it? What is
Right.
it? Right? It's not her, it's me. And that's the hard work that I think
Hmm.
my clients are doing in psychotherapy. You can do that. That's not so much coaching. As a life coach, I don't do that so much. This is more of therapy because you're doing the deep dive and
Yeah.
we're spending time down there, down, unpacking, down in the trenches. And we're like going through stuff in your life and we're helping to figure out what is it about Aunt Susie that every year at Thanksgiving she triggers the hell out of you and you get in a huge fight with her.
Yeah.
Okay, but you know that she's been through all this stuff. And okay, I understand. She said that was really rude. But why are you getting so triggered?
Yeah. And in that sense, like those quote unquote negative moments are more valuable for self inquiry than any positive moment because you just be in the flow of the present moment. Like you don't remember the good conversation you had with Uncle John. It was just the stuff with Aunt Susie, which is hitting the nerve.
Exactly.
And I guess it does seem to me that and I believe this to be true from my own personal experience, we're all on this kind of healing journey, this wholeness journey to like know ourselves more, to embody love more,
Right.
to be with each other and to unfold this mystery of life, but we have the opportunity to heal and I love that.
I mean, I have, I'm one of 8 kids, and my siblings, every bug the crap out of me at times. So we get, go home and everyone's loud and has opinions, and people had all kinds of opinions about COVID and Trump, and it was, I think it's like everybody was triggering everybody and fighting and trying to one up each other on who's more right. We're a competitive family where most of us are athletes,
Hmm.
and I sat back and I told myself I'm not going to engage. And I did a tiny bit, but then I thought this is crazy. Like nobody's listening.
Hmm.
Everybody's trying to win these fights. I mean, it's bad. I mean, it's the first time I ever saw, because of the 2020 George Floyd, Trump,
Hmm.
COVID, vaccines. I mean, you name it, everybody was fighting about everything. And it was the first time I saw people not backing down. And I thought, what is really going on here? I don't want to put energy into this. The few times that I got triggered about things with certain members of my family, it did require me to ask myself, Anna, why is it that person's bothering you so much? And I had to do my own work and my own therapy, my own deep dive into why is it, and here it is. It was old stuff that I had never really dealt with. It's old stuff from my childhood that I didn't think was really a thing, but it was. And I had
Hmm.
to look at it, and I had to see my own flaws. That's doing that blind spot work that we talk a lot about in life coaching is, you know, looking at your own shadow and looking at and acknowledging and accepting that there's no perfection. Every single one of us is a flawed human being, and we have parts of our personality that are really not palatable to
Hmm.
others and to ourselves. And to look at that without judgment and to learn to, we call it, radically accept that this is a part of who I am, and change it if you
Hmm.
can. Work on changing it. But we
Yeah.
all have it.
Beautifully said. I think there's so much to be gained from those last few minutes. I want to go a couple different directions, towards
Yeah.
the back part of this conversation. One is this idea of talking about self-doubt and then self-confidence, like this idea that we have an inner voice, we have inner directed, like we have sometimes people might use the word intuition, like I just know I'm to be here to do this,
Right.
and there's this trusting intuition that can guide us beyond us knowing the facts. And at the same
Right.
time, we also can have this other voice that's like doubting everything and keeps us paralyzed and stuck. What can you speak into, both from the lens of a psychotherapist and a life coach, about living from intuition versus logic, and how this dance plays in? Like, how do we proceed knowing we've all had these different experiences of mind?
I think that most of us are not paying attention to our intuition. I think most of us are not paying attention to our sixth sense. I think that I know that women have we have an exquisite sixth sense,
For
and
sure.
women deny it. And so logic tells you you're leaving the mall parking lot at night and your car is just right there. Logic tells you go, there's a weird guy over there, but whatever. He's probably like waiting for somebody. Logic tells you go to your car. It's like the fourth car in the parking lot. Go there. Intuition, like for me, it would show up in my stomach. Intuition's
Hmm.
like, pay attention, alert, alert, pay attention. There's a weird guy over there. Or I am stereotyping, but you can
Hmm.
use your imagination. Something that has you on alert is over there. And this happened to be at a parking lot years ago when I was with my daughters, and I ignored it. I ignored it. And this is a case of so many people, especially of women. Of logic tells you, okay, it's dark, but my car's right there. There's someone. All right, but just go to the car and get in. Intuition says, pay attention. Warning, warning, warning. Go back inside and get the security guy to walk you to your car. That's
Hmm.
intuition. I think that we need to find a way to balance both of them, but intuition is there. We tamp it down
Hmm.
because we're busy and we don't want to take the time to be quiet and to really be with what's coming up for us. You
Yeah.
have to take the time to nurture and cultivate that intuition so that in moments in a parking lot, to pay attention to that as well as your logic.
That's
Mhm.
great. And I think there's a subtle distinction that came to me. It's like you said, what's coming up for us? It just came to you. It's not like you consciously thought it, it
No.
just came to you there wasn't a thinking process. It's like, Anna, this is a dangerous situation. You
Right.
should be careful. This is something to be aware of. And that's like a knowing. It's something that pops into your awareness versus like
Yes.
the thinking process is like you're actually like toying around with things. You're using language. You're like, well, what if I went here? Then this would happen.
Right.
Like that's thinking versus knowing. And I think intuition is obviously in this realm of knowing. And it could be to get you out of danger or to hedge you away from potential danger, but it also could be on the positive thing, like intuition that this is a new friendship I should lean into, or like intuition that
Yes.
this is a really good opportunity because it
Yes.
feels so good. And I think that's like the feeling. This kind of brings in the idea of feeling. When things feel like they're bringing us life energy, I think they're aligned in this direction of like that which is good for us. And I
Absolutely.
know I'm getting a little metaphysical, but I think even a cell, if you put a cell in a petri dish, it's going to gravitate towards like the media that's like beneficial. It has the nutrients versus you put it somewhere poisonous, it's going to like want to get out of there. We want to
Right.
feel good, this feeling good. So on the positive side, what will you share on intuition drawing us to things?
Learn to cultivate it. Learn to be quiet and learn to listen to their, because there's an inner voice and we're ignoring it. Learn to pay attention to what that inner voice is telling you. Number two, well, number one, I would say acknowledge that it's there. Number two, I would say to pay attention, start to learn how to pay attention. You can do that through meditation. You can do
Mm-hmm.
that through prayer. You can do that through learning to just be quiet and think about what comes up for you. In the present moment, it's very hard to do. So think about your past week, and you can do this through journaling. You can do this through being quiet and meditating, and think about where were situations in the past week where I paid attention to that inner voice, that sense of knowing, that sixth sense. And were there times in the past week when I ignored it? It could be something like, oh my God, I almost got in a car accident because I went left on that, yellow light and I probably shouldn't have. Like
Mm-hmm.
something told me hold back. I mean, you can think about like the micro examples of your week where intuition came in and you listened to it, and intuition came in and you ignored it, and then what
Mm-hmm.
happened? So that's something I think that's a work that I would give myself a few weeks to do.
Yeah.
But it's interesting when you do it, you start to realize like, wow, I've been blowing off my intuition for years. Why didn't I not listen to that guy when he said that to me? Why did I listen? I listened to that professor. I knew that professor was right. And I just like, whatever, I don't have time for that. I'm not going to do that, or don't go in that direction, go in this direction. You're not meant for that. Like, whatever. I don't care. I want to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or
It's
relationships, romantic relationships. Something deep inside of us tells us this is not our person, but maybe like they're good looking. You've got maybe physical, like a sexual chemistry. I see that a lot with women and with men. But at some level, they're like, this is not my person. But you know what? I love that they drive a nice car and that they take me out to whatever it might be, entertain me, and the sex is great. But they know something's telling them, listen, tapping them on the shoulder saying, this is not your person. You're going to get hurt. Pay attention to that.
it's almost like it's guaranteed. If you know you have an intuition on something and you're going against it when you know it's something that you should go towards, you're creating like the guarantee for discordance, like
Right.
discord internally. You've created conflict between your authentic natural feeling and then what you're choosing to do. And I'm sure there's people who have the circumstance where like they had an intuition, they did the other thing and it seemed to work out okay. Like
Right.
I'm saying that's also possible, but
Sure.
I bet if we clustered these things, it'd be like the vast majority. It's like intuition has guided us into the good, healthy direction.
And to your point, I mean, I've had so many people over the years say to me, whether it be a marriage or a business or going into business with people, and they said, there was a still small voice inside of me that was there, has always been there. And I have ignored him or her
Mm-hmm.
many times throughout my life. And I really ignored her when she was telling me, don't marry this guy. Or I ignored him when he said to me, don't marry her. She's not the person. But you know what? There is a reason to why we go ahead and we make these decisions, and
You
we
still
we
learn.
just yes, yes. So that's okay too.
Yeah.
It's fodder for your life, and it's
Yes.
painful at the time, but we grow from it and we learn and we become wiser.
So true. And then that means like if we're from that perspective, it's all good. Even if it's
Yes.
painful, it's good
Yes.
because it gives us a chance to like wake up, clean up, do it better, learn, develop compassion, learn how to let things go. It's so cool.
I can't tell you the amount of clients over the years who have been through some really rough life experiences. I mean, times when they would leave my office and I would almost like lean against the wall of my office and think, oh my gosh, like trauma stories I've heard. And then years later, I had specifically a client who I saw all through her. She had an eating disorder. I saw her when she was 17 till she was 23. She came back to me years later, thriving, pregnant with her first baby. It was such a gift to have her come back because I don't have a lot of those clients come back to me. She came back for a session, like a check in, but I didn't even think she lived in Chicago anymore. She moved to another part of the country. I had no idea she was pregnant. So here she shows up 8 months pregnant. She starts crying. I start crying. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to cry now talking about
Mm-hmm.
it. And she's a great example of somebody who went through such difficulty in her life, and her intuition at the age of 17 told her to get the hell out, but she couldn't because she was a minor and she needed the financial help of her parents to put her through, college. She
Mm-hmm.
would be in my office and her depression was so low. I was so concerned about her because when you may know this too, when grooming and hygiene is no longer something they're doing or
Yeah.
taking care of,
Yeah.
then there's a major depressive disorder, like they're sinking low. And I remember she came in, she had like Birkenstocks on her feet and her toenails were black, and she was dirty and she smelled. And this is a girl who is from a pretty affluent town. And I thought, and so I was really worried about her, checking for suicidal ideation, really, calling her psychiatrist, getting everybody involved because I'm really worried about her, to coming to me years later and seeing her thriving. And I said to her, I can't, all that you went through. I mean, if you could change it, what would you change? And she said, Anna, I wouldn't change a thing. She goes, all of that. And then I'm like, couldn't help it. I'm like, waterworks are going in me. And she's like, all of that has made me the person I am today. I wouldn't have changed a thing. I am who I am because of the difficult traumas of my childhood.
Hmm.
Unbelievable.
I got chills.
Yeah. There you go,
Yeah. It's so good. And I think we can that experience. So it's like, and we have that empowering perspective oftentimes looking back. And that's just how it is. When we
Yeah.
have more clarity and we're in a different spot, it feels so much better. We can look back and be grateful for the times.
Right.
But I think if like we really also understand, if we're in the thick of it right now, that there is going to be a point that we will look back on this with some kind of smile and feeling, because it's not going to last forever, because we got through it. And so even the ability to kind of cultivate that in the present, to have as much trust and good feeling as you can muster amidst the darkness, because you're not going to be here forever, because you
Right.
keep on showing up, because you have support, because you're going to learn from this. Like, that's the fuel that gets you through tough times. And you don't have to have the whole tank filled up to get
No,
through it. You just need to fill up today and go through the best
absolutely.
you can. And then you get another day, and things will fall in your favor. There will be things that start to change and shift. And we've heard the stories of what humans can endure, insane amounts of suffering,
Unbelievable amounts of suffering.
right?
Yeah.
Far more than you and I will probably be blessed to not have to experience in our lives. At
Right.
the same
Right.
time, we can show up every day.
I want to say this to those who are listening. You brought up about being a really difficult place right now, and maybe you're in a really low spot. Maybe you're really struggling in your life. And I want to just throw this idea out to all of you. Remember that it won't always stay this way. Like you said, it will not stay this way. And that is a guarantee. Nothing stays the same. So
Mm-hmm.
if I could, direct you to the clouds. When you look up and you look at the clouds, they're there, right? And they seem like they're just hanging out there above you. They're not. The clouds are always moving. If you look down, then you look back up 5 minutes later, the clouds are different. That is like the events and in your life and your mental health. Your mental health, if you're in a low place, it will not stay there. It's like the clouds changing. They're always changing. So when feel like you're at this high level climax of depression or anxiety or whatever it is you're dealing with, and you think you can't take it anymore, remember it will not stay that way. And in 5 minutes, 5 months, 5 years, it will be different.
I love that. And just think, even if it is 5 years, and imagine yourself being in a substantially better place.
Right.
Maybe in 5 years, 5 to 10x better. It'd all be worth it, even if it was
Absolutely.
5 years, to experience that turn.
And get help for it. I mean, if you say, okay, yeah, the clouds, like whatever, I get that too. If you feel like, I'm in it though, and I feel like I'm sinking here. I'm not swimming. I'm not treading water. I'm starting to go underwater. Get help for that. You're not alone. There are people out there who are specifically trained to help you. Psychotherapists, there's people who specialize in trauma. There's different types of trauma treatments. So there is help out there. There's all kinds of treatments that you all, the lay people, don't know about that we do know about. And we can point you in. If it's not me, I'm always pointing people in the right direction. Okay, you might be a great fit for this treatment. You might be a great fit for that treatment. So remember, you do have to get on your computer and Google, or maybe you got to go to Psychology Today and you got to look for people in your area. But there are people out there who can and will treat you and can help you move you along. They're the people who, like me, they walk beside you in your life and they have their hand on your shoulder and they're helping you move forward. We can't do it alone most times, right? We need that help.
Totally agree. And the last thing I'll share, and then I want to turn it over to you in closing, is in my life, there's been signs. There are the signs and the pivotal moments where when I am in desperate need, something shows up. And it could be just like what's here present right now. And I'll just say this, if you're literally listening to this right now and resonated with this in many ways, but you actually feel like you need to seek help and you're inspired by Anna, like this is your sign, yo. Like she has a website, reach out to her, fill out the contact form. That doesn't mean you're committing to working with her. It just means that you're taking one step and paying attention to a sign of a conversation that resonated with you right now in some way. And it doesn't, and I also I want to put it out there too. It doesn't mean you need to be in a really dark place to engage a psychotherapist or a life coach. In fact, some of the most successful people I know are they actually just do this for fun.
That's what they're in therapy and they have life. Absolutely. Exactly. The best therapists and the best coaches are in therapy and have their own coaches. And this is something that, the love that you said that, this is something that I do to continue to explore and to evolve, because I'm a very flawed human and I still have to work on myself. Right.
So where can people find you specifically as you're working through all the stuff and they can reach out and contact you?
You can go to my website. It's annamarcolin.com. Everything is there. If you want to, see a little bit about how I am as a personality, I'm on TikTok, Ask Anna Marcolin, Instagram, Ask Anna Marcolin. But check me out on my website, and feel free to email me, hello@annamarcolin.com. And, if we can work together, I would love that. And if not, then I'm happy to help you find someone in your area too.
Nice. And that's Marcolin, spelled Marcolin.
Yeah.
You'll find her on social. Anna, thank you. This was better than I could have expected. I love this conversation.
Wonderful. Yeah. Thanks for having me. Thanks so much.
Hey there, my friend. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of the Fit Mother Project podcast. If you love what you heard, I have a favor to ask you. Please consider taking 60 seconds right now to leave us a rating and review on our podcast. Leaving us a review is super quick. It only takes a minute, and it's so helpful to us as it really boosts this podcast to reach more people who need this information and this message. If you're listening on Apple Podcast, you can leave us a star rating and review. If you're watching on YouTube, you can hit the like button and leave us a comment. Overall, I truly appreciate you being with us here on the podcast. On behalf of me and my entire Fit Mother Project team, we truly feel honored and grateful to support you and your family on your journey to fantastic health. I thank you for your support of this podcast and of this mission. Also, if you're interested in joining our Complete Fit Mother program and becoming an official member of our community, you can visit our website, fitmotherproject.com. And on the Fit Mother site, you'll be able to see our Complete Fit Mother program, along with our online store with the best supplements designed for busy moms. And you'll also find a ton of free resources like recipes, workouts, meal plans, and more. God bless you and your family. This is Dr. Anthony Balduzzi signing off. I'll catch you on the next episodes of the Fit Mother Project podcast.